Hi everyone, and welcome to the second video in which we're looking at the reason behind our decision to no longer have announced masses in our parish. And those are mass intentions that are fixed to a specific time and place, as opposed to getting a mass card that we're not quite sure when and where the mass is going to be offered. We just know that it will be offered. In the first video, we looked at the history and how this practice developed from early times, specifically through the growth of monastic movements and the fact that the Eucharist, rather than being celebrated once a week, began to be celebrated eventually every single day, and how it was used basically to help fund monasteries and apostolic works, and eventually the salaries or the living costs of parish priests, and how in many ways that's not really, it was made redundant once priests began to receive salaries, whereas before they didn't. Okay, so this video I want to talk to you about the theology behind all of this. And again, it's tied in with two theological developments. One was the church's early understanding, and we got this from the Jewish tradition. We hear in the book of Maccabees, and it's one of the books from the Greek canon, originally written in Greek, not Hebrew, which is contested. It was included in the canon of the scriptures, the list of official books, up until the time of the Reformation. And these books of the Greek canon, the Greek list, the word canon means list, were not accepted by the Reformers. So it's one of the differences in our Bibles and the Old Testament. And it was contested in the early centuries of the church as well. But in the book of Maccabees, there's a line that says it's a holy and wholesome thing to pray for the dead. And so we've taken that into our Catholic tradition, the belief that the saved, those who are saved by the grace of Jesus, so not through their own efforts alone, but through God's grace, faith working in love. St. Paul says that in Galatians, all that matters is faith working in love. That when we pass from this world to the next, for many of us, the work of sanctification is unfinished. It's not finished. I'd like to say this, that if I died tonight and God let me into heaven right away, I'd wreck the place. It would be a little less heavenly. Why? Because James Mallon just arrived as he is, very imperfect. I mean, we've all seen the bumper sticker that says, "Please be patient with me, God isn't finished with me." And so the point is that this could give us the notion, the Catholic understanding of what we call purgatory. Purgatory is not a place where you go for a certain amount of time. These images were used previously in early years in the church because we're dealing here with mystery. There was no other way to kind of imagine what this might be. But we know, for instance, that there is no place, there is no time. This is a process of purification that those who are saved through the grace of Jesus Christ, through faith, working in love, that in a sense it's a finishing off of the sanctification process. That's what we believe, that's what we understand by purgatory. And we believe that sanctifying process, the person remains within the communion of saints, and so in many ways that process can be assisted in a mysterious way through our prayers. Okay, so that's the core understanding of why Mass is offered for the repose of the soul of people. But Mass is also offered for the living, for the intentions of the living. And this again comes back to the early connection with the monastic movement. As the Eucharist began to be celebrated every day, there was a growing understanding of the concept of the fruits of the Mass, so that there was fruit to be able to offer the Eucharist. It says in the first Eucharistic prayer, it talks about the priest offering the Mass, and it talks about the faithful, how they offer it for themselves and for those who are dear to them. So the Roman canon, this first Eucharistic prayer, goes back even to the late 3rd century. And so this is a very early notion that the Mass, the Eucharist, can be offered for those who are dear to us, for our loved ones, for our own intentions, for the living, and also for the dead. And so there's something very profound in this, if you think about it, because what it's saying is that the priest who presides at the Eucharist, who celebrates Mass in the person of Christ, offers the Mass in a particular way, oriented or aligned to his ordained ministry, the fact that as a priest I've been configured to the person of Christ. I offer the Mass in a particular way. But remember, we believe that all the baptized are priests. And so we not only, as the baptized, as the laity, are not to be passive spectators at the Mass. You exercise your priesthood by offering yourselves to the Lord on the altar. You know, that's the heart of worship, to say, Lord, here I am. I offer myself, I lay myself down. But you also offer Christ. Now, when we talk about offering Jesus at Mass, it's not that Jesus is offered again and again. There is the sacrifice of Jesus was once and for all. It says this in the book of Hebrews over and over and over again. Jesus is not offered again. There is one and only sacrifice of Jesus, but it's an eternal sacrifice. Jesus eternally intercedes for us, it says in the book of Revelations, before the throne of God as if a lamb slain. And he offers himself, and we unite ourselves with that one and only offering. So here's the great mystery. Jesus offered himself on Holy Thursday at the Last Supper, on the cross on Good Friday, and he rose from the dead. We call that the Paschal Mystery, all three of those. We celebrate it in the Triduum of the Church, and every Easter, as we enter into Easter season. And in one sense, every single Eucharist we celebrate Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Sunday. And we celebrate it not just remotely remembering the past. We celebrate it in a way that recalls the past and allows us to touch the past and be present to the past. In a sense, when we celebrate Mass and when we offer Mass, we transcend time and place. And we are in the upper room on Holy Thursday. We are at the foot of the cross on Good Friday. We are standing at the tomb on Easter Sunday, not doing it again, but standing there in the original once and for all event. See, when Mass is offered, it's where you're being united to the very central mystery of our faith, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. You want to talk about effective, efficient prayer? Yeah, it was the salvation of the universe. And that's what we touch during the Mass. And does anyone think they can possess that by paying $10? You see the problem that we have here? So in the early church, there was this concept of the fruits of the Mass. And yeah, because the Mass, the Eucharist, is nothing but the once and for all saving action of Jesus Christ. It is massive. And here's the problem. So the fruit of the Mass, in that regard, the fruits are infinite. Infinite. So why do we only then allow one Mass offering? You know, you got the Mass for that day, sorry, you got to find another date, right? If you've ever called the parish office to book a Mass, it's only one offering per Mass. Technically, theologically, you could have 500 billion offerings per Mass. And by my reckoning, at $10 a Mass, a priest could make a killing on that. I mean, you do one Mass, you're good for life. You're good for many lives. And believe you me, the church has been around for 2,000 years. This is a long practice. Put it this way, there is a reason why the church in her wisdom limits the number of Mass intentions a priest can have to one. Because trust me, a few have tried it. Because theologically, they're on good grounds. I mean, if you've got 100 Mass intentions, Mass is infinite. You can do them all. You can do one Mass for all these intentions. And it's been done before. So the practice of saying one offering per Mass is not because the Mass is somehow limited. It can only be offered by one intention. That's preposterous. It was simply to guard against any misappropriation or misdirection or misuse of funds. I think you get my drift on that. So where does it leave us with regard to the idea of the fruits of the Mass? Well, put it this way, it's like a lineup of people. Imagine Niagara Falls. If you've ever been there, you see this, these massive tons of water every second flowing down the falls. Imagine basically saying to people, making people line up, and people can only take a thimble at a time. You're going to Niagara Falls to fill a thimble of water. So at some point, it's kind of ridiculous to say that if you pay your $10, whoever gets the pays the $10 first has exhausted, that Mass is done, is limited. And sometimes inadvertently, because of the need to guard against financial malpractice whatsoever, we've created a bad theological resonance with regard to the Mass, as if once you buy the Mass, that's it, no one else gets a say, which is preposterous. And so that is part of the theology behind this, and it's one of the reasons why we're going to be changing this, because as we see right in the Eucharistic prayers themselves, especially Eucharistic Prayer 1, this idea that the intention of the Mass is not limited to who paid the $10 first. It's not limited to what names are published on a bulletin board. Every single person can bring his or her own intention to the Mass and to offer it up. And when we make these changes, that is not going to change. So join me for the next video as I explain a little bit about some of the pastoral concerns that have led us to address this issue. Take care.